Hello, welcome to the Jack and Joe show. Slightly later than the Monday show, but we're here and we had lots of beer on Saturday. Joe Sansom, it was so good to see you. Sunday, not Saturday,
Sunday,
Sunday.
yeah,
So good
it
to
was
see you,
it,
actually.
it, it was great. Yeah, I had a great time. Wonderful. My first away day of the season. My first away day since Millwall way back in what would that have been? That
August.
must have been February 2020. I mean,
Oh,
that is an
that one,
awfully long time. Yeah, that one. I mean, I couldn't
pre-COVID.
make it this season. I mean, what a great experience. Great to be there in person. Wonderful day at the City Ground and a wonderful result, even though the actual game, and we'll get onto it, wasn't even that good. I
Mm.
think it's fair to say.
It
Yeah, Jack, what did you make of it?
it was a weird day because at 1-0, I was like, okay, I think we deserve the lead. We got a lucky goal of the own goal. Let's just try and cling on and they'll probably throw the kitchen sink at us. And that grabbing chance, I mean, it should have been 1-1.
Yeah,
I don't know how he skied it, but
I've got to say,
apart,
by the way, on the replay, way closer to the goal than I thought. I
oh
thought he
yeah,
was at
yeah,
the edge of the box. He was near the 6 yard box.
yeah, it was a terrible miss. He leant back. He didn't get the connection on it. But apart from that, I'm not gonna lie. Forest were good in possession, but when they got to the final third, I just thought they weren't that good.
Yeah,
They had a couple of scuff shots wide, a couple of chances where we put the ball behind for a corner, but Tosin was just again just everywhere. And obviously
yeah.
we'll come on to Mitrovic and stuff. But can we talk about Tosin Adarabioyo? That player is just on a different level.
Yeah, and I thought, I guess we'll touch on the Cardiff game slightly. Um, that's 2 games in a row now where he's just been pretty much flawless. He was great against QPR as well. Obviously, we let one in. Not particularly his fault, but still. Cardiff, he had to deal with Kiefer Moore, who's big physical striker. Actually, really impressed me. And he gave as good as he got. He's a massive guy, really strong, good in the air. But Tosin won most of the headers, and everything on the floor he cleaned up as well. And he really carried that into to Sunday's game. I know that Graben and Johnson, who I guess was almost up front with him as well, they're not the most physical of strikers, but they're two that have been in very good form and are very dangerous at the moment. Forest were in a great run of form going into the game. And he dealt with them very, very easily. Like you said, other than that Graben chance, I was never too concerned. The game was giving me slight Coventry vibes just because of the first half,
Mm,
the own goal early from a corner that
mm,
Mitrovic sort of got involved with, and then just a bit of a dull period in the game. Um, but they never really came close, did they? I mean, I know there was that save Rodak made at the end when the game was done.
mm,
That was quite close, low on the floor, sort of
mm.
palmed it away. But they never troubled us, and I think that he has got to get an enormous amount of the credit for that because he was winning everything, and I think that hopefully shuts up anyone that doesn't think he's any good.
Mm.
He's Premier League quality, in my opinion, and if we do make it back up, which I hope we do, um, with no disrespect to Tim Ream, who I just don't know would be able to cope with the pace of the Premier League. I'd love to say that he would, but it's definitely something we need to think about is who would partner him because I think he's a guaranteed starter.
I was really impressed with the way that Fulham have dealt with QPR's threats, Cardiff's threats, and Nottingham Forest's threats. If you think about it, um, these are three teams who, at the moment, I mean, obviously Cardiff are in terrible, terrible form, but they've still got the likes of Kiefer Moore, the big centre backs. We were talking about it last week. But I mean, that's done. TC scoring was amazing, unbelievable
Yeah,
moment, probably one of the best moments of the season so far. Um, and then Mitrovic scoring after we pressed them when somehow they wanted to play out from the back, which was the most un-Cardiff thing I've ever seen.
yeah,
But yeah, great night. That was absolutely soaked in the rain, but it was a wonderful evening. But I'm really impressed with the way that Fulham. I mean, we saw the lineup, saw TC came in for Reed, and we were like, we're going to get overrun in midfield here if we're not careful. But I was pleasantly surprised by how well TC managed to manage the game in possession, flying himself into tackles, getting involved, getting stuck in, very un-TC like. And what we're seeing now is a pattern where you can say it about Alexander Mitrovic, you can say it about Harrison Reed, you can say it about Tom Cayley, where Marco Silva is basically giving them the roles that they usually have, but adding that little bit extra of flexibility, of versatility, where Harrison Reed is a box to box. He's getting forward more. TC's getting more involved within the dirty work, where Mitrovic is coming back to hold up the ball and get more into doing more link up play. And of course, Mitrovic has now got 15 and 14. And then, out of possession when Fulham don't have the ball, we're working really hard off the ball, and we're very good value for a clean sheet, Joe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was the same as you. The lineup came out. I was thinking, great, really attacking team. I'm sure it can score a few goals, but defensively, it doesn't really scream out to me solid. And I think we saw at the end of the Cardiff game, as well as we played, they started when we had Kearney and Seri next to each other in midfield to just get a bit more of a fist of the game and coming at us through the midfield a bit more that they weren't able to do when Reid was on the pitch. And against probably a better midfield, you would say, in Nottingham Forest, I was a bit nervous, but they dealt with it really well. And Peter Rutzers wrote a brilliant article about Kearney's role and how he's more disciplined and how his average position on the pitch was a bit deeper. And he ran himself into the ground at the end of the game. I mean, Tim Ream commented on his post that he thought he was going to have to get the defibrillator out in the last 10 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
To sort of cope with that. He collapsed to the floor at full time and he worked so hard and it was brilliant. Marco Silva apparently said that he was planning on bringing Harrison Reid on. And then when the game became a bit more wrapped up in that sort of weird 10-minute spell where we scored 3 times, clearly decided that it was probably the greater good, now that the 3 points are sealed, to give Kenny 90 minutes that he hasn't managed to do since West Ham away in that infamous Saturday night game, all the way back in, November, I think, last year. So, yeah, really pleased with how we dealt with it. It'll be interested now that Reid is probably going to be fully fit for the West Brom game to see what happens. I've got to say that I would quite like to see him come back in. West Brom maybe not going to play it through the midfield so much. It's probably just going to go like that and completely miss the midfield altogether. But it's going to be an interesting one. And it was also really good. I know that I'm a huge advocate of this, to see Kenny Tete back for the first time in a while. Didn't have too much to do in the period he was on, but we're really seeming to get back to the fully fit squad. Just missing Carvalho now, Chalobah when he's back, and obviously a few niggles with Brian and Cavallero. Knockout apparently, but it's a bit of a weird, his name suddenly being mentioned in that press conference, because it's a bit like he's not even making the benches. So yeah, weird one.
Yeah, I for one, knowing what Kebano brings, what Bobby D. Cordova-Reid brings, what Harry Wilson brings. Anthony Knockout for me doesn't fit in. I mean, I don't feel like, oh yeah, we crave the likes of Knockout with his jinking runs and his terrible crosses and his wasteful chant. It's just something that I don't feel we need. And I feel like, yeah, he's a good player and he's had a good career across championship level. But
yeah.
I mean, the level of wingers we've got now, Neskens Kebano is on a different level. I mean, Neskens Kebano was a player who we signed in 2016, in the 16-17 season. Made his debut against Blackburn Rovers away. Looked all right, tricky winger, whatever. But he's just slowly started to progress more and more, just like, again, under Marco Silva. I think this is the best period we've seen Neskens Kebano play for Fulham. Even in that 2016-17 season where he scored against Villa and he was playing really well with Aluko Aite. But I really am enjoying Neskens Kebano, who scored the 3rd goal today, on Sunday. So again, it's another example of Marco Silva just getting the best out of these players. A word on Dennis Odoi, I thought he was quite good.
Yeah, and he also had to cope with a yellow card as well that he got in the first half, and him and Ream both got booked, and you almost thought they're probably going to get targeted now. Both dealt with it really well, and Odoi, I think that a lot of people know that I'm maybe not his biggest fan overall, but you've got to say that since he stepped in for Tete, I think he's done as well as he possibly could, and he definitely done himself no harm with these performances. I thought he's carried himself really well, threat from set pieces, fairly solid defensively, and has offered as much as he can going forward as well. Got a few assists, so got to say well done to him, and definitely unexpected from my point of view. I didn't think we'd be seeing him in a Fulham shirt again, and he stepped up really well.
Yeah, I think the one mistake he made was against QPR, which led to Rob Dickey's goal.
Yes.
I keep saying Rob Dickey. I meant Lyndon Dykes. But yeah, I think that Dennis Odoi, despite me thinking, oh, he's not going to be as good as Tete, like he lacks a bit of that pace. He has a mistake. He's been good, and actually, when Ryan Yates brought down Odoi, apparently he was already on a yellow card, and he should have got a red card. I don't know what happened there, Joe.
It's completely bizarre. I mean, I know the Nottingham Forest fans on the online forums are just basically acting as if the referee has just killed their firstborn by not having a great game. Bit dramatic. I thought he was all right. The penalty was a penalty, but I don't know why he didn't get sent off. Very weird.
He got two yellows, which equal
he quite
a red.
literally got a second yellow if you watch it back, and then he just forgot to give a red. So if anything, they should be thankful that they didn't have 10 men for the last, at that point was about 25 minutes left of the game.
And what I would imagine is, but I don't know how the EFL works, they recognise that the referee's made that mistake, and subsequently he should get a 1-game ban, because I'm not one to press it home or whatever, but that's just how it should work, right? But it's not going to affect us anyway, so it's not that deep. And then I suppose we haven't really talked about the goals as such, because they'll be covered on the podcast and stuff, and everyone's seen it millions of times. But Jean-Michel Seri, yet again, just very, very good in that midfield where we were quite nervous about, because he didn't have any protection from Harrison Reed. And then he again came over and just bowed to the fans, and he's lapping up. I can't believe what's happening. I can believe it, because obviously it's been a few weeks since everyone's got used to it. But I mean, it's just an amazing turnaround, isn't it?
It just makes me think, one, I wish he started against Middlesbrough opening day, and two, I wish he started against Coventry. Same with him and Tosin, because I really feel that those two, we've already spoke about Tosin, so crucial. And Tosin, I voted for as man of the match. I think he deserved it, but second place would have been Seri, 100%. He just ran the show in midfield. Defensively, he shows what he can do, but also just in terms of the way he keeps the game ticking over constantly, he just does look a class above. And, if we can keep him fit, I think that other than when he goes to the African Cup of Nations, he needs to be a guaranteed starter every week. He's the one player in our midfield at the moment that I feel like is guaranteed to start if fit. Reed could play next to him. Kenny could play next to him. Chalobah, Onuma. We've got a lot of options, but I think that they all have to be next to Seri, 100%.
He's the key cog in the team. I'm going to ask you if the performance level against Nottingham Forest might have not been the highest we've seen this season, but we still racked up 4 goals and won 4-0. So does that concern you that we're playing a team in West Bromwich Albion who are obviously now 1 point behind us, and if we win, the gap goes to 4 points, then suddenly us and Bournemouth maybe could break away a little bit, given that we've got Peterborough and Blackburn coming up as well. By the way, Blackburn's not going to be an easy game. They're very good, especially at home. So does the performance level slightly worry you? And a team like West Brom, who are very aggressive in their press, they have a very high line. That could either work in our favour or it can massively hinder us.
It didn't worry me too much, because I would hope that we can step up the performance to what we saw against Cardiff, to what we saw against QPR, where we were a bit more on the front foot. I do think there'll probably be a couple of changes to the team. Some players coming back from injury, just some fresh legs as well to maybe cope with West Brom a bit better. But it doesn't worry me, because I think it's a sign of a good team when you win, when you're not at your best. And normally you would probably, when you hear that statement, you probably think, a shithouse 1-0 win away from home. We won 4-0. I mean, this wasn't close in the end. And I know you could say, we only had 3 shots on target. We did, but we took them. And let's face it, that third goal in particular, which you very well done for capturing it on camera. If you haven't seen it, I'll go on Jack's Twitter.
It's only because we started singing, and I was like, I'm going to put something up on whatever because it's fun. And then suddenly we had a chance. I was like, okay, I'll record it just to see what happens. And we just scored. It was funny.
Hilarious. Definitely go and watch it. It doesn't worry me as long as we don't follow it up with the same level of performance. I would hope that a game against the third place team, a time where we can kick on and make a 4-point gap if we win at this stage of the season, that's really something where we could kick on, and I really hope we do it. And I would hope that we step up. I mean, we mustn't forget that the second half was much better on Sunday, and then it almost petered out a bit because we didn't need to exert that much energy. We were 4-0 up. That 10-minute spell, just after I said to Jack during the game, 56 minutes in, we were saying to each other, this is going to end 1-1, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my God, that was so weird.
And 10 minutes later, we looked at the clock and we were like, it's 4-0. It was very, very strange. And I still don't really know how it happened.
So basically, what happened was Joe looked at he couldn't quite see the clock from here, from where he was, and we were standing right next to each other. And you said, "Oh, is that 56 minutes?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, it's going to finish 1-1." And I was like, "Yeah, it's probably going to finish 1-1." And then suddenly we score those 3 goals, and then you look at the clock and go, "It's 66 minutes, and we're 4-0 up." Like, it's the most weird thing ever. But it was a crazy 10 minutes, honestly. And this is the thing: once Fulham score one, sometimes we just absolutely fly, and we can just hit teams. And the pace of Kebano, Harry Wilson, the precision passing from Seri, Kearney, it just all really worked. Obviously, the second goal was a bit of a calamity from their point of view. But again, Mitrovic just gobbling up chances. How many goals can he get this season? He's on 15 from 14. And last time in the Championship, he got 26 goals. He's already 11 goals off his tally from last time. And we're only 14 games in. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, he's on track to beat Tony's record from last season by quite a distance at this stage.
Oh, please.
And we know that everyone goes through some sort of dry spell where, it just happens. And I hope that it doesn't, but it normally does. But even so, I want him to beat that record. I want him to beat it convincingly. And I want him to really assert himself as one of the all-time great Championship goal scorers, which I think he is. I also strongly disagree with the fact he's not a Premier League striker. I think that he is Premier League quality. I agree that the system has to suit him. We can't expect him to be making runs in behind. But Silva has built this team around him because he's the most potent player at this level you could hope for. And I do think that if we were to make it up, and I've seen a few people, including yourself, I think, say this on Twitter, I think that Silva would be able to get the best out of him in the Premier League and play the players around him to suit. To stay in the Premier League, it doesn't matter how pretty the players or anything. You have to have a goal scorer and you have to play to suit that goal scorer. We didn't do that last season. And that's one of the reasons we fell to a pretty embarrassing relegation in the end when our team was actually very decent. And that's something that I hope that we can improve on next year if we make it up. And it is still a big if, but if we make it up.
But let's actually look at this objectively, because I really get frustrated when people say that Mitrovic is not good enough for the level. When we came up, Savici Kanovic got the best out of him. He scored quite a few goals before he got sacked. Ranieri got the best out of him. First game in, he scored 2 goals. He won the game against Southampton. Parker comes in. He scores 1 goal, Mitrovic, when Parker comes in the Premier League, and that was from the penalty spot against his now team, Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And then we go down, and Parker goes, "Well, we need to use Mitrovic because in a physical league, he's a physical striker and he's going to get goals." And he did. And then we go up, and he completely changes the system. He wants more pace up top. He wants more counter-attacking football, which Mitrovic doesn't suit. So he scores 2 goals, and then he gets really left out the whole squad for basically a lot of the season, and then scores against Villa. I think he scored 3 goals all season. That's not down to Mitrovic being a bad Premier League striker. That's down to the manager in Scott Parker, who's inexperienced, by the way, at Premier League level, not using him and not getting the best out of a best striker. That's very frustrating when people say that he's not a very good Premier League striker. If we go up, I'm sure that, yes, we might sign a second striker just to play alongside, or another option, or Muniz, you never know. Mitrovic will be the main striker, and I'm sure we will play to his strengths, because there's a lot of ways that this Fulham team can play, and it seems to be working. We can play on the break in the Championship and Mitrovic getting goals. We can play to his feet and Mitrovic will get goals. We can play balls into the box and Mitrovic gets goals. This guy is so good. It frustrates me when lazy people say, "Oh, we only scored 4 goals last season." Do your research, I beg, because it's very frustrating. And yeah, anyway, got lost in the moment there. Right, let's go on to West Brom before we finish. So you were talking about making a couple of changes. For me, I'd bring in Tete for Odoi and Reed for Kearney, just because I think Kearney just needs a bit of a break. I don't want him to burn out, basically. Would you agree, or would you make any more changes?
Yeah, I would agree with the 2 players coming in, and I would agree with the 2 players going out. The only thing that I would say is I wouldn't be opposed to keeping Kearney in the side and dropping Bobby D. Cordova instead,
he could play as a 10
and playing Kearney slightly more further forward and almost trying to let him flourish in that role. But equally, he's just played 90 minutes for the first time in a year. I would understand if he needs to come off the bench for this one. But I think that Reed and Tete have to start because this is a huge game. I would also actually say, and I don't know if this is controversial or not, but if Brian's fit, I'd play Joe Bryan because I think that Joe Bryan's been very good. I thought Robinson was fine on the weekend. But going forward, I would like to see Joe Bryan given another chance. He was playing very well against QPR. Robinson came in, did very well against QPR in the second half. I thought he was quite poor against Cardiff by his standards. And I thought he was okay against Nottingham Forest. So I would like to see Joe Bryan get another go if he's fit.
Yeah, good point. That it's good that we've got two very good left back options in Robinson and Bryan.
Yeah. We're very lucky for this level. Yeah,
Robinson's performances for me have been quite inconsistent, and yeah, I think Bryan deserves a chance. And you know what, Bryan delivers good balls into the box, and guess who's in the box to get those balls? It's Alexander Mitrovic. But I am wary of the likes of Kyle Bartley, good centre back, solid. Yeah. Well, interestingly, at the weekend, West Brom played Malumbi and Snodgrass in midfield as they easily dismantled Bristol City. I wonder whether they'll stick to that or they'll go back to the Livermore, Alex Mowat midfield double. And then they've got the likes of Grant. Hugo scored twice at the weekend. They still got Grady Diangana?
They do, yeah.
Oh, he's a good player. Matt Phillips. I mean, they've got some good players. West Brom have got a good team, and I expect them to be, probably in the top three with us and Bournemouth. So let's hear your score prediction for that big game.
My score prediction for this one is a 2-1 Fulham win. I'm a bit nervous of their physicality, and they do tend to score quite a few goals, even when they're playing poorly. Grant's on a great run of form. But I do think that we are the better team. And I hope that the better team comes out on top on Saturday afternoon.
I think if we play at our best, like our fully best level, we win the game. I just think there's too much quality. I think West Brom are a good team, but like before the Bristol City game, they weren't performing very well. They beat Birmingham 1-0. They didn't play very well. They scored again from that long throw-in on Saturday, the second goal through Kyle Bartley. That's something that I'm wary of, but I'm more than I'm very confident in the likes of Tosin and even Mitrovic coming back to head those balls away. Tim Ream as well. Just that doesn't worry me as much as just like because I feel like Tosin deals with those threats very well.
Yeah.
However, it's one of those games that I just think is going to end 1-1, and that's unfortunate. And the game we played against them last time when Knockout scored the chip and then Semi Ajayi scored, very frustrating. Yes. Oh, we're running out of time. We need to wrap up. So you're going 2-1 Fulham. I'll go 1-1. Hopefully we get the 3 points, and then we go on to Peterborough. No, we go to Blackburn, and then we go to Peterborough. 2 big away games. We'll be back on Monday with a new video reviewing whatever happens on Saturday and various other championship stories, I'm sure, because this league is fantastic. We're second in the table. Fantastic to see. If it go to 4 points above West Brom with a win on Saturday, that really is a statement. And hopefully Bournemouth drops some points at some point. Yeah. So thanks very much, mate. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure yet again. Everyone subscribe so we can get to 4,000 subs and have a good week. We'll see you Saturday.